Step into the heart of Rome in the 2nd century AD. You are standing before the Pantheon, the great temple dedicated to all gods. As you look up at the massive dome and the oculus letting in the sunlight, you feel the core spirit of the Roman Empire, Syncretism. Rome was not an empire with a narrow-minded approach to religion. On the contrary, it acted like a giant sponge. When Roman legions conquered Greece, Egypt, or Gaul, they didn't destroy the native temples. They simply imported those gods back to Rome. The Greek god of war, Ares, became the Roman Mars. The Egyptian goddess Isis was also worshipped by the Romans. The Roman worldview at the time was highly pragmatic. Religion was not a quest for personal salvation or a deeply emotional relationship. It was a contract, a civic duty. The Romans had a concept called Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods. As long as you performed the correct rituals, sacrificed animals, and burned incense to the statues, the gods would be pleased and bless the empire. Harvests would be bountiful, and the army would be invincible. Even when Roman emperors died, they were deified. Burning a pinch of incense before an emperor's statue wasn't necessarily an act of personal cult worship. It was akin to saluting the flag today, a way to prove your loyalty to the state. In such a tolerant empire, it seemed every belief had a place. But from a small, barren province in the east called Judea, a new faith emerged. A faith that accepted no compromises. A faith that would shake the Roman order to its very foundations. In the 1st century, a small group of Jesus' followers began spreading their message. Initially, the Romans paid little attention. They merely saw it as a strange offshoot of Judaism. But very quickly, the Roman state realized there was something highly unusual and dangerous about this new religion. The core issue that caused Christianity to violently clash with Rome wasn't that they worshipped a different god, but that they worshipped only one god. Their monotheism came with a strict commandment: "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." To an early Christian, entering a Roman temple, bowing before a statue of Jupiter or the emperor, and burning incense was the ultimate act of apostasy. They refused to participate in state religious festivals. They refused to watch the bloody gladiatorial games, considering them a sin. In the eyes of the Roman authorities, this behavior was not religious freedom, it was treason. The Romans didn't care who you worshipped in your own home, but when you publicly refused to honor the state gods, you were breaking the Pax Deorum. You were angering the gods, and that could bring disaster, plague, or military defeat upon the entire empire. In fact, Romans of that era even called Christians atheists because they denied the existence. Furthermore, vicious rumors began to spread among the populace. Because Christians often gathered secretly in catacombs, called each other brother and sister, and practiced the Eucharist, eating bread and drinking wine they believed to be the body and blood of Christ, Romans spread rumors that this new religion practiced incest and cannibalism. Suspicion and hatred steadily rose. That hatred soon turned into systematic violence. In 64 AD, a great fire destroyed much of Rome. Emperor Nero, to deflect the public's outrage, used the Christians as scapegoats. The historian Tacitus recorded that Nero arrested masses of Christians, crucifying them, throwing them to wild beasts in the arena, or covering them in pitch and turning them into human torches to illuminate his imperial gardens at night. For nearly 3 centuries that followed, Christianity was an illegal religion. Persecutions occurred in waves, peaking with the Great Persecution under Emperor Diocletian in the early 4th century. Holy scriptures were burned, churches leveled, properties confiscated, and anyone who refused to sacrifice to the Roman gods faced the death penalty. But this is where a great historical paradox emerges. The brutal Roman persecutions not only failed to destroy Christianity, but inadvertently empowered it. Why? Look at how the martyrs faced death. When dragged into the arena, facing lions or the executioner's sword, instead of screaming and begging for mercy, many Christians calmly accepted their fate, even singing hymns. This steadfast courage shocked the Roman crowds. Romans deeply respected bravery. Witnessing ordinary people, carpenters, slaves, fragile women, willing to die for their faith, planted seeds of curiosity and admiration in the minds of the spectators. As one early scholar noted, "The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church." Moreover, Christianity offered something the cold, polytheistic Roman system never could: equality and hope. In a rigidly stratified Roman society, where slaves were considered speaking tools and women were oppressed, the Christian message struck like lightning. Before God, there is neither slave nor free, neither male nor female. All are equal. This religion promised salvation and eternal life after death to anyone who lived righteously, regardless of their humble origins. For the millions of impoverished people at the bottom of Roman society, this was a blindingly bright light they could not resist. The pressure from below grew immense. Christianity silently spread from the dark catacombs up to the mansions of the aristocracy, from servants to the wives of the elite, and eventually it touched the very center of imperial power. In 312 AD, one of the most cinematic moments in world history occurred. On the eve of a life-or-death battle at the Milvian bridge to claim the imperial throne, Constantine the Great looked up at the sky and saw a blazing cross of light, along with the words, "In hoc signo vinces," in this sign you shall conquer. Constantine ordered his soldiers to paint the symbol of Christ on their shields. The next day, he won a glorious victory and became the supreme ruler. In 313 AD, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, officially legalizing Christianity across the Roman Empire, ending nearly 300 years of bloodshed and persecution. From a religion of slaves and outcasts, Christianity stepped out of the shadows and straight into magnificent temples. The state began funding the construction of massive basilicas. Bishops began to wield power on par with military generals, and less than 70 years later, in 380 AD, Emperor Theodosius took the final step. He issued the Edict of Thessalonica, declaring Christianity the sole state religion of the Roman Empire. All traditional Roman polytheistic temples were closed, and sacrificial rituals were permanently banned. The sacred fire of the Vestal Virgins, which had burned for centuries to protect Rome, was extinguished. The War of the Faiths was over. Looking back at this entire historical canvas, we see an irony almost too profound to believe. The Roman Empire. The massive power machine that ordered the crucifixion of Jesus, the empire that hunted down and threw his first followers to wild beasts, became the greatest vehicle for carrying his message across the world. By utilizing the perfect Roman road network, Roman administration, and Roman language, a faith originating from a group of poor people in the Middle East rose to dominate the entire Western civilization. When the Roman Empire fell in the West in the 5th century, the legions disintegrated and the emperors vanished. But one thing did not collapse: the church system. Bishops replaced the authority of governors, and the Pope donned the mantle of the emperor. The old god Jupiter was dead, but Rome continued to rule the world, not by the power of the gladius sword, but by the power of the cross. The collision of faiths ended not in destruction, but in rebirth. And that, perhaps, is the greatest legacy ancient Rome left to our modern world today.